Development Authority of Grenada, PDA, is enforcing regulations to curb illegal, disorderly, and unauthorized development in several locations throughout the state of Grenada. The authority is concerned that structures mainly associated with vending are negatively impacting the environment, has undesirable public health and sanitation consequences, present obstructions to vehicle and pedestrian traffic, can become projectiles during adverse weather conditions, and generally affect the aesthetics of the nation. The PDA will work along with stakeholder ministries and institutions to effect the demolition, removal, and disposal of structures which fall in the category of illegal and disorderly development, commencing January 2024. In this regard, persons who vend in or occupy such illegal structures are advised to secure their personal belongings and have the structures removed ahead of the planned PDA demolition operations. These actions of the PDA have become necessary to safeguard and protect public health and the environment, ensure the safety and well-being of all citizens and visitors, discourage any future disorderly construction, and encourage compliance to regulations pertaining to physical development in the state of Grenada. This is a message from the Planning and Development Authority of Grenada.
Yeah. It's beautiful Thursday inside, in the ride. As you come and go ahead and share the thing, guys, today we have an interesting conversation. I am very excited. Yes, because today I get to learn about history, right? And a lot of you as well are going to learn about history. Because, let's admit it, it's 50 years of Grenada independence, so 50 years ago, some of us who wasn't even born as yet, or some of us is just barely over 50, right? Not all, because the other day I met a lady in Tong, she was about 85, and she's a big fan of Ride Along. But I'm not talking about her. Big up to you, ma'am. You're a big supporter, you're a big rider. But today, we are gonna ask the question about a leader, the leader, right? Who is considered right now as the father of the nation. 1974 was the year, and it brought in a wave of change for Grenada. But during that time of independence, guys, during that time frame, there were a lot of criticism. There were a lot of people who was completely against Grenada moving towards becoming an independent nation. In fact, on the night of independence, on the day, the same day, right, they basically hoisted the flag under Masanto and Kendall because the electricity was cut off, right? But even more into the history of this man, Micheal Gairy, who was the premier at first, then he became first prime minister. He was overthrown, right, by a leader that is revered throughout the Caribbean, and some people even call that leader or the group, or he particularly, the leader, Maurice Bishop, as one of the best leaders. He's highly proclaimed, right? After Micheal Gairy was basically thrown out of office, run out of office. Prime Minister ran out of office and had to flee in exile. So a lot of the contradiction in the understanding, because now people are kind of walking back a lot of things, right? And kind of contradicting history a little bit. Now, a lot of people are coming back to the realization that, yes, in fact, Gairy was a good man. He was a blessed leader. Some even went as far as say he was probably the best leader. So the question is, then, what about all the, anarchy that should have gone on, that didn't go on, after someone overthrew the best leader? So we have a lot of questions. And I think the best person to answer some of these questions is Mr. Micheal Baptiste. Now, Mr. Micheal Baptiste, I must say, controversial brother. I love that brother. He speaks his mind. Right? You can't hear me. Michael, you can't hear me? You can't hear me? Go back out and come back in. Hold on. Michael say he can't hear me. Yeah, check. Yeah, Michael, go back out and come back in. Let me throw out Michael and then let you come back in. All right? So Micheal Baptiste is going to be joining us back shortly. And we're going to talk about this. Val John, yes, I want your pin. I have a pin, by the way. I just forgot to put it on. Fix my collar. Right? All right. So again, guys, on this program, you're going to get an opportunity to ask the questions. You're going to get an opportunity to learn about the man. You're going to get an opportunity to talk about history. Now, before we get into this conversation, I had an opportunity to speak with a member of the Mongoose Gang. This particular person knew Gairy very well. In fact, he revered him as a friend, a close friend. Let's take a look at this interview that I did with Tan, a member of the Mongoose Gang in Grenada, and sought out Micheal Baptiste audio. I will be right back. This is the only surviving member of the Mongoose Gang currently in Grenada, and we're going up to his house to chat with him. I'm interested to hear what he has to say. Take a look.
Well, my name is Olsen Wood, but everybody know me as Tan. Right? I'm originally from River Road. Okay? But let's go back to the Gairy era. I was a supporter of Eric Matthew Gairy. Right? And there are a lot of things that have been said about Mr. Gairy himself, which is not true. And one thing I will tell you first, they say Gairy had Mongoose Gang. Gairy never had a Mongoose Gang. This Mongoose Gang originated from a gentleman from Guyana named Mr. Simpson. At the time, Eric Gairy was out of power. He used to live up in number 5, up on Carnation, in Mr. Raddick's house. And they came to eradicate mongoose. That was the thing there. And they used to go in the fish market and buy the small jacks in basket. And they put a little poison, just like yeast, a little poison, it was a black one, in the jacks, and they mix it up. The supervisor was Joe Gibbs, a man named Salfali, and Victor Husband. They were the supervisor. They had 3 Land Rover. And when they ting up the jacks, they had the lard pan, the old-time lard pan, where they make a plastic bucket now. And they'll put some jacks in a bucket, at least 5 people and 1 van. I was working in it. They give us a pot spoon, and they give us a long red gloves reaching up under your elbow. And they used to send us in different directions. They put poison for mongoose. So a Land Rover will go in that area with 5, another one will go in that area with 5. And why should pass in the Land Rover, people saying, look, the Mongoose Gang passing. And that is how this thing started. Then, when Leslie P and them formed the committee at 22, they bring the thing and say, Gairy Mongoose Gang. And I tell you, Gairy was not in power. But he spoke to Mr. Simpson, and I believe Mr. Simpson, let's put it this way, he asked for work for us because he wasn't working.
We're going to get back to part 2 of this conversation that we had with Tan. We have Mr. Micheal Baptiste back with us. Baptiste, could you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So I was saying, if there's anybody, I mean, there are a few people, plus yourself, but you're very vocal and always been very vocal on this topic. So I thought that you might be one of the best person to talk to us about someone that you considered a friend. What was your relationship like with Mr. Gairy? How did you get to know him?
Well, as a youngster, I got to know him when he visited Munich in Meet the People Tour. My parents were Gairyites, of course. My adopted parents, they were Gairyites. And I often follow them wherever they go to uncle's meetings. So, and I'm coming to the Meet the People Tour. As a youngster, I was around the table making errands, you know, getting them refilled with water and whatever else they needed and whatnot. And I would chat with him in between, and he would ask my name and say, young man, what's your name? I would say, Michael and whatnot. And we chat briefly in between. When I left school, I went into St. George's and I started as an electrical apprentice. And I decided I wanted to enroll in technical wing.
Right.
Because I did not have the academic background, I was turned away from technical wing. So I walked from Tantine and I journeyed up to Mount Royal, and I sat by the gate. I said, well, I'm going to see my Uncle Gairy.
Mm-hmm.
And as luck would have it, I saw a police vehicle. I stopped. I told them I wanted to see Uncle, and they told me, give him my name and all of that. And the guy said, jump in the back. So I got in, and he said, you will go to inform him that somebody's there. To my surprise, Uncle came out. And he saw me and he called me by name, Michael. He said, what you doing in town? I said, so, I'm here, I'm working here, and I want to go to technical wing, and look, I'm having difficulties getting in. And we spoke briefly. Hello, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we spoke briefly, and he called his secretary, and he decided to pen a letter to get me admittance. While we were talking, he asked if I was hungry, if I had money and thing. And I was so ashamed, because in those days, begging was not customary.
Right.
So when he asked me if I had money, yes, I tell him I had a $5, and I think that for the weekend that would okay. He asked me if I wanted something to eat. I was so overwhelmed in meeting him there. And he readily agreeing to help me. That the other things, as how much money I had in my pocket or whether I wanted something, it didn't really matter to me. I told him, I said, look, yes, okay. And he called the workers and asked them to prepare something for me. Then upon completion of the letter, he signed it. He called the driver and he asked the driver to drive me back. And here I was sitting in the front seat of P1 and ran back to technical wing, and as fate would have it again, as I open up the door, here I jump out of the vehicle with the envelope in my hand and hand it to the same person who told me that I could not enter. And he read it and he said, well, when you want to start? I said immediately. He said, no, well, you could come for orientation the next day. And then, but Uncle had told me that he would monitor my progress.
Right.
About 6 months later into the class, I was called and said someone wanted to see me. And I got up and followed the tutor to the room. And when I got there, it was Uncle Gairy. He said, Michael, I'm here. He said, I heard bad things about you. That's why I'm here. I said, sir, no. I said, sir, I'm doing good. I said, what did you hear? He said, I heard that you're the best student in the class. And I'm so proud of that. And we laughed, and he said, continue and whatnot. And he's going to Munich and such and such a time. And when I get back, I would tell Fletcher Jones and Camiro and the diehards up there that he's coming. Because, I was like a young foot soldier. So that was my first interaction with him. I saw someone that can invite himself into the feelings of the have-not, a struggler, a hopeless young man who was looking for some direction and someone to help. I did not go begging for money. I didn't ask for a job.
Right.
I told him straight up what I wanted, and I told him what my situation was. I said, we are very poor. I couldn't have the opportunity to go to secondary school, and technology is my calling, and that's what I want to do. And he said, well, we're going to help. So he listened to my cry and so on. Now, after that, shortly after, I migrated to the United States. After about 2 years or so, I migrated to the United States and went on further studies in electrical technology and working in the electrical field. And lo and behold, I heard one night that the government was overthrown. And I said, God.
So before we get into the overthrow of Gairy, let's talk about Gairy as a leader, a premier.
I would rather if you say Sir Gairy. I'll be honest with you.
Gairy. Okay, I'm sorry.
This Gairy thing is song into good.
All right. Okay, Sir Gairy, sir. Thank you. Sorry, I apologize.
Right. All right.
Accept it. As a leader.
Well, Sir Gairy was he was a superhuman being.
Uh-huh.
Um, he was someone who heard the cry of a people, invited himself into the feelings, understood their struggles, and he heard the cry. The people crying out for social and economic justice,
Right.
people that was enslaved on the plantation, people that were barred from working in institutions like banks and offices because of the color of their skin and whatnot. He heard all of the cries and he decided that he was going to do something about it. So came 1951 after he returned from Aruba. He formed the GMIWU, started organizing workers and whatnot. And he became an instant sensational, a young man who was fighting on behalf of the working class. Now, to go back a little bit to the working class, and
Right.
a lot of people today don't even understand the struggle that went on in Grenada, because some people say they're taking it from the top. Now, in 1951, most of our lands were owned by the plantocrats,
Uh-huh.
and most of our people was employed by the plantocrats. They got minimal wages, sometimes a shilling a day, which is what we call 25 cents today. They had no benefits at all whatsoever. Women used to go to work, get pregnant, have the babies, and within a day or two, they had to struggle back to work because they had the child to feed and leave the cocoa basket and all of that, and go into all kind of inhumane circumstances. So he came in, he organized them, and he said, look, we're going to put an end to that. First of all, we're going to work for better wages and better working conditions, and we're going to set some standards on how we operate.
Right. So it's also important to note that at that point in time, he was not considered the prime minister. He was the premier because Grenada was not yet an independent country, still a colony
No,
of.
we didn't get to that yet. At the
That's
time,
it.
he was a union leader.
Oh, union leader. Oh, he didn't even get into. Okay. Okay. All right.
Oh, no, he
Okay. That
didn't,
was way back down.
because his first public stint was not as a politician. He didn't
Okay.
come as a politician.
Yeah.
He came in as a union leader / liberator.
Right.
He organized the workers, and in 1951, we had the first general strike, successful general strike, which we say Grenada's first and only revolution.
Right.
Organize the workers and call a national strike. The British government, of course, sent down the battleship from Barbados with the British regiment. They came in, quelled the violence, took him into custody, brought him into Carriacou, and so on and so forth. And of course, there were rebellions on the island. The workers started rebelling. They were burning and and all of that, because people felt that they wanted their leader to be free.
Right.
So the British gave in. There were negotiations he was released, because if he wasn't released, there would be no peace. He was released. They sat at the table, they hammered the agreement. The workers got better wages and so on. But in the process, a few people died. If you go into Latant now, you would see in Latant Junction there is monuments there of Agatha Fraser and Newton, and people that was gunned down and cold-blooded by the British regiment at the time.
Right.
Being successful as a union leader, he then ventured into politics. It was then, a year or so later, he formed the Grenada United Labour Party,
GLP.
GLP.
Right.
He took part in what you had then was the council there. They did not have parliament. It was a legislative council.
Excellent. Right.
So his party was successful and got the most seats, and he had the majority on the legislative council. And then the struggle continued about workers' condition, the pension, gratuity, and whatnot. And the British government at the time was concerned about another 51 rebellion. So when the subject of the pension and gratuity came up in 1958, he had the most seats in the legislative council.
Right.
So they gave in to that, and they inserted that as part of our law, the pension and gratuity of 1958, thanks to the efforts of Sir Eric Gairy. So our struggle for independence did not start in 74. Our struggle for independence started in 1951. As I said at the time, if you listen to some of the workers and the songs that they were singing, we will never let the leader fall at the ending of the strike, or the price shall rise. You know, those
Right.
were social political statements that they were making. If you listen to some of the older folks, they'll tell you Uncle Gary make them wear panties.
Yeah.
Now, people laugh at that.
Mm-hmm.
People laugh at that. They couldn't say at the time, Uncle Gary improved on their working condition. He didn't say that he empowered them. They did not have these words in their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
What they said at the time was that Uncle Gary make them wear panties, and opponents laugh and they said, "Well, how could you? What stupidness is that? A man making you wear panties?" But here's what they meant. You see, prior to that 51 strike, flour used to come from England in a cotton bag. Workers, because of their small earnings, would go to the shops and pay down on the shop, whether it was a shilling, a few pence, 2 pence or whatever. They will
Right.
take this flour bag, take it to the river with a corn stick, and scrub it as such that it will come as white linen. They then would make what they call flour bag bloomers for the girls, sliders for the men, and of course the drawers for the women. Now, after the successful 51 strike, when he hammered out a good working arrangements with the plantocrats, the workers got an increase in pay, and they were then able to go into the store and buy nylon panties. So it is from that episode that slang came in, that Uncle Gary made them wear panties, because they no longer was using the flour bag to make bloomers, sliders, and drawers. They now could wear the same panties that Morris Bishop families and all of them, and Leslie Pierre and all of them families used to wear. As a matter of fact, they got so excited that when they got to work, some of them was lifting up their clothes to show Master what Uncle Gary did for them. So that is how that started. Now the question of it was not just a question of being a union leader. He was also a civil rights leader. He felt that we were discriminated against. Prior to that, a lot of black people, like you and I, could not work in a bank. Only light-skinned people could do so. People who work as domestic workers in master home had to call their children sir.
Mm-hmm.
And he fought, and he said, "Well, cut that out." Now, there's not a problem if you want to call your boss sir, but do not call the children sir. The children must respect you and call you miss. They must have equal respect for you.
Right.
So those were some of the things that he was fighting for on behalf of the working class. Now, he got into government. He came first as chief minister, then he was premier. He did not have the leverage that today's prime minister have. In other words, he could not borrow from a country. He could not establish diplomatic relation with any other country without the agreement from the British government. Because don't forget, he was doing all of this while we were a colony. We were colonized.
Yes.
So he thought then that based on the struggle that we had with the British from 51, he should lead the country into independence. He set out in 71. He went into in England, in Marlborough House, and sat with the Home Office and made the request for Grenada to be independent.
Right.
He was then told that he should go back to Grenada, put it in a referendum, and get a 2/3 majority. And there's something about this 2/3 majority that we will talk about.
Yeah. But hold
He
on.
went back in 71.
Hold on. Before we go there, right?
Yeah.
What was the atmosphere like with the population? Were they happy, anxious, delighted that Sir Eric Matthew Gairy is now moving towards the direction of getting independence, sovereignty for Grenadians. On
All right.
Grenada.
Now, prior to 1971, I think it was in 1967, there was an election after the British government dissolved his government for squandermania.
Right.
And he didn't say corruption. They came in with auditors, and they looked at all the things that he did, and they said he squandered taxpayers' money. And what the squandermania was all about? He bought a piano at the time for $800 for the prime minister's for his residence. $800. So the British government, having a gripe with him since 1951, readily moved and dissolved the government in 66, I think. 67, they went into an election, and the topic at the time was unitary state with Trinidad and Tobago, which the GNP proposed at the time. And his proposal was Little 8, which we today call in the OECS. At the time, we didn't call it, we did not call it OECS, he called it Little 8, with Barbados and all the other small island states. Well, the GNP won the election that time, that year.
Mm-hmm.
But the proposal to form a unitary state to Trinidad and Tobago did not work out. So he came back and he won elections, and he decided that, look, he's gonna take Grenada into independence.
Mm-hmm.
So he sat out, he went into Marlborough House. The mood in the country was great because, I mean, Grenada was Gairy land, let's face it.
Right.
He had a commanding support in the parliament. He was the dominant political person. He had popular support among the population. The country was doing very well at the time. What
was the average rate? What was the average take-home pay or the rate of an individual at that time? Average.
Well, workers on the estates were earning maybe about $8 or $10,
right.
$12 then.
So put everything into perspective. When we say $800 at that time was like $1 million now. Because if workers working for $8 and $10 and $15, and then the $800 that you refer to, that is just $800 to buy a piano, that was way more than any possible regular person would be able to have. Correct?
Well, he was a man of class and taste and style.
Okay.
Was
it that's why it was investigated as squandermania?
Well, of course, but it was not corruption. He was not charged with corruption because obviously he showed them there was a paper trail of what he did. He was never accused of corruption. What he was accused of is buying a piano because, unfortunately, the piano that he bought was of a higher quality than the one that the administrator, the Jamaican administrator, had in his home at the time. So there was some jealousy at the time that a little black boy came in and how he could acquire all these niceties for himself. So the government was brought down, the GNP won, and the unitary state thing came about. It didn't materialize, and there came back the GOLP, and he then decided that he was gonna take Grenada into independence. So in 1971, he went into Marlborough House in England and proposed independence. The British government gave him the ultimatum. They said, look, if you want independence, you must go back to Grenada, seek a mandate through a referendum, come back, and if you are successful, we'll hear your plea. He went back to Grenada. He called elections in 72, and he got 13 seats. He got 13 seats. He didn't get a clean sweep. He was not looking for a clean sweep because he recognized that a functioning democracy needs an opposition, regardless of how weak that opposition was.
He didn't give it to them. He didn't give it to them. They won the seat.
Well, they won the seats. Carriacou and St. Patrick's West.
Right. But if it was up to him and he could have declared a clean sweep, he would have gladly accepted a clean sweep.
No. He subscribed to the Westminster form of democracy, and he took pride and fun in making fun at Mr. Blaise in the parliament, because you know Robert Blaise was no match to him. He was flamboyant, he was he's articulate, he's a good orator, he is class and well dressed and all of that. So he did not mind having Robert Blaise, who was a lawyer at the time, sit in the parliament where he could take advantage of him with his vocabulary and his style and whatnot, and he had the support on the ground. So he got 13 out of the 15 seats. He didn't get a clean sweep, but he's the only politician in Grenada that ever secured a 2/3 majority. So armed with that 2/3, he went back to England and brought, of course, the British government had observers here to oversee these elections. He went back to England and he showed, well, they saw the results and decided that Grenada was going to go forward. He brought in the opposition team. The opposition was invited to come along and sit and be part of the process, which they did. If my memory serves me right, I think Bernard Code was part of that delegation. Ben Jones and Mr. Blaise and all of that, Hudson CPO, some lawyers, they went in and they had a draft constitution. Mr. Heligar and Derek Knights and the others accompanied the GOLP and whatnot, and they hammered out a constitution. Right. Now, what was interesting at the time, in the first draft of the constitution, the state of Grenada was supposed to be Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Mm-hmm. That was what the name of the state should have been.
Right.
Now, the opposition left the conference early, and they came back to Grenada, misleading the Grenadian people then that they did not sign for independence, and therefore Grenada would not get independence. That is where the disturbance with all these social unrest and chaos and all of that happened. They did not understand that it was not necessary for them to sign because the British government has already laid the conditions under which they would grant Grenada independence. Go back, seek a 2/3 majority, and once that was attained, they would give it. So they came back and they got independence. And in preparation for that, you had the Committee of 22, the unions, and all of the opposition forces amalgamated and rained terror and hell upon Grenada. Uncle was determined that come whatever, Grenada was going to go forward with independence. So he started, and independence came. There were lots of strike. There were lots of unrest. Maurice Bishop and his gang was hell-bent on ensuring that the country did not go through the independence. But as you asked earlier, what was the mood of the people? Having a 2/3 majority in a referendum in 72, obviously, the mood of the people would be pro-independence.
Was it a free and fair election?
Of course. All elections in Grenada, save and except the elections in 1985, was free and fair. The only elections we had in Grenada that was not free and fair was in 1985 when the United States, through the CIA, and decided that Sir Gairy should not return to power, and they orchestrated that union when they brought in all the forces, the GNP and GDM, and other stakeholders. They brought them to Union Island. They gave them the necessary support, and they gave them the election. That's the only election in Grenada,
right?
That was not free and fair. Number one, Uncle Gairy was not.
Did he have the popular support?
When? In 72? In 74? Yes. He had the popular support.
Okay.
Because coming out of 1972, we had a referendum in 72, and that was on the ballot. Mm-hmm. The election in 72 was a referendum as demanded by the British government. Go back to the people, seek a mandate through a referendum, get a 2/3 and come back to us. And hence the reason today why we have this 2/3 we hear ringing in the Constitution, and people don't understand where it came from. That 2/3 that we are required today to get to amend that Constitution came as a result of that which was asked of Uncle Gairy in 1972 to get us a 2/3. So he then went on to say, okay, fine, if I'm getting a 2/3, if I have to seek a 2/3 mandate to get independence, anyone coming after me that would want to change the Constitution should also seek a 2/3 majority, and it was agreed upon. So that remains standard, that in order to amend our Constitution, we need a 2/3 majority.
I want to jump ahead a little bit.
Right.
I want to jump ahead a little bit because the claim is that, okay, Sir Eric Matthew Gairy did have popular support, free and fair election. Everything is on point. No issues there. What transpired during the overthrow of Gairy? Let's move into that period now.
Right. A group of young intellectuals,
Right.
fresh from universities around the world, they came home like a ball of fire, and they wanted power, and they wanted power at all costs. There was this.
They wanted that change. They wanted power, or they wanted that change.
They wanted power.
What are things that was going off or not really going as supposed to in Gairy's Grenada?
Well, that is a very contentious issue that you're raising about. What it depends on who is it going towards. I mean, in 72 you had an election, a referendum. He secured a 2/3. The opposition did not want the independence. Obviously, any government in power, things would not go according to their way, according to the opposition. But based on the sentiments of the people wanted independence. They wanted to be free. Right. You know, Grenada is the only country in the world, when the chance came for us to be free, we fought each other to remain under colonialism.
Right.
And we fought each other brutally.
People don't
as a matter of fact, the effects of the division from 1974 still follow us today. Grenada today have one of the highest port charges in the world, and it all stems as a result of the civil unrest, civil disobedience, and the violence that started leading up to our independence. There was a national strike. There was looting. The Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union collaborated with International Showman's Union, Seamen Showman's Union, and they were not touching any cargo coming to Grenada.
Right.
The government was being held hostage at that time, and of course they had to give in to some of the outrageous demand from the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union. They got a huge increase in pay.
All right, stick up in there, Michael.
Yeah.
Ashida recognized it, and I recognize it as well. I was summoned to say Sir Eric Matthew Gairy earlier, which no problem, but Bishop and his gang. That was your articulation.
Well, let's put it this way. You cannot call them anything else other than a gang because they were not elected. Okay. Now, in 1976, there was an election, and Morris Bishop led the alliance. They got 6 seats. The GRP got 9 seats. Okay, and election were constitutionally due possibly next year in 1980, because we had election in 76, and Uncle never usually go the distance. The 5-year distance. So elections were imminent. But what happened then? There were chaos and there were divisions within the alliance. Some of them wanted to break away from the traditional GNP because they thought that Hubert Blair's and his party was not radical enough. So there were divisions within the opposition. Uncle Gary, sensing that, was prepared to call a snap because obviously he felt that with a divided opposition, because there was no way that alliance that fought the election in 76 was going to fight Uncle Gary again. They decided to go it alone with Bishop as the leader.
Right.
So yes, when I say his gang, I meant his gang because they were not elected. Bishop and one or two of his people got elected on the alliance, but most of the members of the team was pro GNP candidates.
Right.
But he felt that they could not work with them. So hence the reason why they chose not to go the route of the ballot, to go the route of the bullet, because they were facing certain defeat.
Okay. All right. We left out a key part there, but I jumped ahead a bit and I want to keep going, but I just want to explain this part. So the night of February 7th, 1974, electricity was cut. The island was in darkness going into the celebration of the independence that particular night. People basically hold Masanto and candles as the flag, new flag, hoist over Grenada, right? So let me just go back there a little bit and ask you, why did that happen? And then we will go to the question that I posed initially.
Right. Well, it happened because they were hell-bent on doing everything possible to derail that independence on February 7th. They formed committees. They were sabotaging farmers and blaming it on the mongoose and the GLP. There were daily protests. The propaganda machinery was in full gear. They were doing everything that they can at the time to destabilize that election. And we went into darkness. But the supporters of the GLP, which was in the majority, they came out in the numbers. And with the Masanto and the flashlight, when the Union Jack was lowered and that flag, the Grenadian flag, was raised to the cheers and jubilation of the nation, it was with Masanto and flashlights.
Yeah.
But of course, we became a nation at the time, and from February 1974, it opened up a lot of opportunities for lots of people. Number one, had Grenada not obtained the independence that Bishop did not want, we would not have a Maurice Bishop overthrow. We could not have a Kit Mitchell. And obviously, we would not have a Deacon Mitchell.
Right.
Now, Bishop and his team did not recognize. I upgraded the word. I didn't say gang, I said team.
I realized.
You see how compliant I can be?
And I see how conscious you was. I see your consciousness as well.
Of course.
All right.
So Bishop and his team overthrew the government in 79. And immediately what they did, they launched an attack on the Constitution of Grenada. They suspended the Constitution.
Yes.
And they were working, in other words, with what they call the People's Law, which means nobody knew what the People's Law meant. It means that they can pick you up at any time, send you to Richmond Hill,
right,
and detain you there for as long as they possibly can or wish.
Here is a fundamental question, Michael. Yeah. You said earlier that Sir Eric Matthew Gairy had the popular support of the people.
Right.
Maurice Bishop and his team overthrew the government, the duly elected government that was freely and fairly elected into office.
Right.
He was sent on exile. He was overthrown, sent on exile. Yet, there was no protest in the street. There was no march out there a big claim, bring back Gairy. We want Gairy back. What happened to the popular support? What happened to you and everybody else and all the team and all the people and all the majority of people who supported him? Why they got so silent?
You know, when the German tanks rolled into Austria and took over Austria, the women were out there handing the German soldiers coffee, you know.
Uh-huh.
Not that they supported them, they were feared for their life. Now, when they overthrew the government, they took hundreds of people into custody. Some of them were beaten. Some of them were handcuffed and placed like animals in Richmond Hill without a trial, without a charge. And by the way, our Honorable Prime Minister's uncle, one named Ulala McSween from Pedmota in St. David's, he was one of them that was handcuffed and placed in Richmond Hill without a charge or without a trial. You know, the smartest voters in Grenada at the time are the GLP supporters and the Gairyites. They knew that they were unmanned. I mean, they were outmanned. They knew they were outgunned. They knew in their hearts they would not let their leader fall.
But it was the majority. They were the
Yes, but they had no guns.
Okay.
They would not go out in the street and risk their lives in protest that will cause them to get killed or to end up in Richmond Hill. So they hold up their peace. And they hold their peace and they prayed. But they knew well that doctrine, the communist doctrine, that foreign doctrine, that ideology that is foreign to us, would not survive in Grenada. And it did not. I remember hearing Uncle Gairy saying while he was in exile that he's going back to Grenada. As a matter of fact, on one time I thought he was losing his mind. He left the confines of San Diego and ended up in Barbados. He said he's going back to Grenada, and when he get there, Maurice Bishop would not be there. Maurice Bishop would go out the same way that he came. That is the great vision. That is the great visionary this man was. So the supporters of the Labour Party did not protest. They could not, because Bishop had the guns. Bishop had most of the leaders in lockup. But here's what they did. They waited patiently. And when the government collapsed, when Bishop regime collapsed in 83, and Grenada was returned to constitutional democracy, here's what they did. In 1985, the United States government conducted a poll, and the poll was showing that the GULP and Sir Eric Gairy was favored to return to power. And here's what they did then. The United States and the Caribbean islands, Eugenia Charles and others that took part in the rescue mission, they summoned Sir Eric Gairy to a meeting, and they demanded that he not participate in the 85 elections for fear that a return of Eric Gairy in the 1985 elections would undo what the United States government did by with the intervention. But when you look at the results of the elections, you can see clearly that election was fixed. The GLP was as strong as ever and destined to return to power in 1985. In some instances, the vote was like 20, 15. And here is a man who was in exile. Here is a man who the Eastern Bloc countries propagandized and said all sorts of things about this man. They paint him as an inhumane person who prosecuted and oppresses people, which was of course propaganda. In 1985 elections, the GLP won not elections. It was the United States that determined, when they flew the plane over Grenada and saying vote LNP, it was the United States government at the time that determined that they didn't want him back at that time.
Right.
But they install a government, and 2 years later, the government broke up. And that is when NDC was born. NDC was born in 1987 out of that unholy alliance that they had in Union Island to keep away the GLP from power. So
Right.
the NNP went away, and in '89 another split. They broke up again. This time into what you call it, the TNP. So you had the NDC on one side, the TNP on one side, the GLP on one side, and the NNP. And here's what they had to do again to keep Uncle Gairy from power. In the 1990 elections, when the polls were showing that Sir Eric Gairy was again winning, elements of the PRG forged an airline ticket stating that Sir Eric Gairy is fleeing the country again. And they circulated that. They circulated that through the length and breadth of Grenada. The GLP supporters got so frustrated and so depressed from the news that they were hearing that Sir Eric Gairy had already left the country again. Most of them that did not vote early, they went back home.
Right.
Notwithstanding all of that, the GLP still were able to manage to capture 4 seats in that election, where they were trying to forge a coalition government with NNP and with Dr. Micheal and his 2 seats and the TNP.
And I know you came into the mix there too. I want to play back this video, right? I want you to put this into context for me, right? Let me pull up that video here. Let's play this back. Listen, everyone. Listen to this video.
The Caribbean island of Grenada, a paradise for tourists, but now the center of the world's latest coup d'etat. It happened on March the 13th, when a revolutionary party overthrew the government of Prime Minister Sir Eric Gairy. It all began at 6 o'clock in the morning, when a solitary barracks guard was lured away by a young woman who sympathized with the opposition party. Groups of men moved in, seized the armory, and took the sleeping soldiers by surprise. The raiding party donned army uniforms and moved onto the radio station. The guards were quickly overpowered, and the first bulletin from the People's Revolutionary Government was broadcast. The coup, which only took a few hours, was carried out by the New Jewel movement. Its members are mostly young, left-wing lawyers and intellectuals. The group formed 7 years ago and quickly won widespread public support to challenge Sir Eric Gairy's Grenada United Labour Party. Their leader is a 34-year-old London-trained barrister, Maurice Bishop, now Grenada's self-imposed Prime Minister. He told the press what made him strike when he did.
We had received information on the Saturday before the Tuesday that the intention of the government was to search us and detain us. We decided to go underground. While we were underground, more information came to us on the Monday morning that the plan was that Gairy was going to flee the country, leaving orders to have our leadership killed. We therefore, around 3 o'clock, summoned a council, a meeting of our top cadres, and there and then the decision was taken that we should move rather than wait to be killed.
The seeds of Grenada's current problems were sown 5 years ago. In 1974, after 200 years of British rule, the island gained its independence and raised its own flag for the first time. But the Grenadians themselves had doubts about what exactly they were celebrating, for the island had stumbled into independence in the middle of a general strike. Britain too had her doubts and alerted a warship to stand by to evacuate foreigners in case of violence. But Eric Gairy had got what he wanted and happily danced the night away in the company of his supporters. Gairy had an unshakable belief in his own leadership and authority. But for the people of Grenada, the strikes, riots and street demonstrations that had disfigured the island from the end of 1973 were an inauspicious prologue to full independence. The port had been for a month, so food or fuel was scarce.
All right, let's stop it there, Michael.
Oh, right.
People said that portion of this is very factual and accurate as to what transpired. Some people said that it's propaganda-ish. Where do you fall in terms of the information that we just saw?
Well, one of the thing I disagree with when they say the Revolutionary Party, I think they should have used the Reactionary Party, because there was nothing revolution about Bishop and his team. Bishop and his team wanted power, and they wanted power at all costs. They didn't. They recognized that they could not attain power through the ballot box, so they pick up the guns. I mean, when you look at Grenada political history, and let's go back a little bit. You had Tillman Thomas winning elections in Grenada. I mean, imagine Tillman Thomas that was a prisoner. He won elections. He didn't pick up the guns. And Tillman Thomas is now Maurice Bishop. Had Maurice Bishop beat his time, he possibly would have been alive today with us enjoying the independence. It was a classic case of power hungry group of intellectuals wanting power at all costs. The documentary that you saw here was probably prepared in Moscow, because at the time there were this great rivalry between East and West, and Grenada find itself in the midst of the Cold War between the United States and Eastern Bloc countries. That was before the breaking up of the Soviet Union. You had Grenadians been sent to East Germany, Bulgaria, Austria, and all of these places, and them to train in misinformation and subversive activities and all of that. Look, let's face it, what Maurice Bishop gave Grenada was something that the people did not want. It's just not in our DNA. You and I can sit and we could disagree as much as we want, but at the end of the day, we must have the right to choose the people to govern us. When Bishop took over as leader of the country, there were several calls from the international community, especially the United States of America, to regularize the situation and call elections. And looking at some of the things that Maurice Bishop did, he suspended the Constitution, he suspended the civil liberties. There were no protests. There were no media except the media of his own. There were no elections. So we were in a state of anarchy, even though Bishop had proclaimed the excesses and articulated the excesses of Eric Gairy. When he got into office, he quantified some of the things that Sarah Gairy was doing. So
Right.
people saw it as not someone who had the interests of the Grenadian people at heart, but people of his own political survival at heart. Had he stayed on and worked in the trenches as others did, he would have been prime minister and be alive today. There was no need for overthrow.
When again, let me just say this on our programming note, guys. We open up the phone lines right now. If you want to call in, you could do so. Usually we have someone, probably Mr. Livingston Nelson or someone, to challenge the historical recollection of Micheal Baptiste, but we didn't want to do that today. We want Micheal to tell his story, but we will have other sides, because that's how it is, right? There's always contradiction sometimes when you talk about history, because people see it from different perspectives, and we understand that. But we want to give Micheal the opportunity to talk about someone that he revered as a friend and a great leader. All right, but we're going to give you guys an opportunity to call, and the number that you call if you want to put anything on record right here is 718-701-5720. That's 718-701-5720. That's the number right there on the screen, right? Micheal, the question to you is, sir, why was it that Maurice Bishop got so much or overwhelming support when he came in? It was an overthrow. It wasn't a duly election. He wasn't voted in. He took over government. Why were the people in so much support of him? More than the duly elected leader.
Well, you see, I like your program. I like you as the moderator because you bring forth some contentious issues that needs ventilation. If Mars Bishop was so confident that he is this popular and loved leader with no opposition, he was still feared of opposition. Why didn't he just call an election and say, look, I want to amend the constitution? And he could have done us a favor, you know. He could have had constitution reform and say, look, I want to amend the constitution. Here's what I want to do. Instead, he ruled by decree. He suspended the Pension and Gratuity Act, which became a problem for thousands of workers. They died in poverty, not being able to get their pension. He suspended the Provident Fund and created NIS, causing thousands and thousands of workers again who gave their blood, sweat, and tears in working on some of these estates. They never lived to get their pension, thanks to Dr. Micheal, who came in later on and upped the ante for them a little bit to give them a little something. It was not enough, but he reached out and give them a little something. So all Bishop did was to create chaos in the time that he was there. He had the opportunity.
Why the popular support?
Say that again.
Why the popular support? Why did he obtain popular support?
When you have guys with guns, and you know, you from the area, I'm sure you're familiar with a guy in Maki named Jacko.
No.
Jacko. Yeah? All right. When Jacko could walk into Grenville Town and tell someone like Uncle Sepp, Sepp T. Alexander, who was a known supporter of the GLP, when he could walk into an establishment like that and say, look, close up your place and go upstairs.
Right.
That Jacko was a semi-lunatic, but he was given an AK-47.
So he demanded the respect of the people. They hugged him and loved him and kissed him because he pulled guns at their heads.
Well, what love was that? Again, I said to you, the love of a politician is vested in the support that they get from the masses. What evidence do you have to say that Bishop had massive popular support? He spearheaded an election in 1976 against Eric Gairy. Yes, he got 6 seats. He was the darling of the upper class. He was the darling of the upper class, the opposition, and he claimed 6 seats. Now, if Morris Bishop was so popular and so loved by the people, why didn't he just call an election from 1979 up to 1983? Even at the time before he was executed, he had the opportunity to say, look, folks, let us go back to the people and regularize this situation so that Grenada can return to the family of nations in the Eastern Caribbean states. We can return to a system that the people have become accustomed to, where people can stand on the corner or in the rum shop and say, look, I don't like Kit Mitchell, I don't like Ben Jones, I don't like Tillman Thomas, I don't like Micheal Baptiste.
Right.
And they could go home safely to their families. When you introduce that foreign doctrine to Grenadians and you back it up with guns and armored cars and all of that, you can say today he had popular support. There's nothing about Bishop having popular support that's manifested in our system.
Okay,
because
let me throw this one at you then. Now, okay, Eric Matthew Gairy chose not to return in the 85 election or to contest or to be a part of the political structure in Grenada, in frontline politics.
It was not by choice.
Okay, so what about who else? Who else was there? Because you're talking about a party that have popular support by the entire nation. As you said, the popular support of the people. Of course, was he the only person in the administration that could have possibly run or be a prime minister in his own party?
You know, again, Junior, if it was a cricket match, I would say you're bowling a good line and a good length. Okay? You're not straying at all. You're putting the ball on the wicket.
Well, okay.
Grenada political history. We follow leaders. We become like cult-like people. Bishop, they followed Bishop like the cult leader. Bishop disappeared. His followers waited. They gone astray. You had Hubbard Blaise. You had Sir Eric Gairy. Sir Eric Gairy deceased. The GOLP went with him. It is a history we have in the Caribbean that people follow the leader. And some of the Caribbean leaders, they stay on too long, and they do not give opportunities for young people to grow and establish themselves. And unfortunately, unlike Jamaica, that maybe have in the constitution that one person can be president for more than 2 or 3 terms, political parties in the Caribbean are owned by the leaders, and the leaders dangle it the way they want. It is unfortunate that you had a party like the GOLP that could not be sustained after the death of Sarah Gairy, but such is our political culture, and that's what's happening with us throughout. You don't hear nothing about the GNP. You don't hear nothing about Bishop and his gang. They are fragmented now. A lot of them now are sitting around the Honorable Prime Minister Dick and Micheal, and they taking refuge there. Some with NNP, some went elsewhere. So it is a good question, but it is something that we need to look at and see why in our small island state we do not have a succession right, where you say, okay, you do your 2 terms, you bow out, and somebody else come in. But what they usually do, they will stifle leaders, and sometimes they stay on so long that when they gone, their party gone with them. And that's something that we have to. It's part of our culture. It's not just the GLP. It's with other parties in other Caribbean islands as well. Yeah.
Okay. So again, guys, we want to get your voice on this. We're talking here with Mr. Micheal Baptiste, and we're talking about we got up to the point past the independence in 1974, February 7th, 1974, and this year going to make it 50 years of independence in Grenada. We learned that particular time was faced with a lot of turmoil, internal turmoil, where a huge cross-section of the population was against independence. In fact, as I said earlier, electricity was cut because there was no electricity. So in the darkness of the night, the flag was hoisted above the St. George's, and it was done with masanto and flashlights and candle, right? And because a lot of people really was not in support of the independence. Even some people now who are tremendously in support of it was not.
Let's just say, Junior, I don't want to cut you out, but say members of the opposition.
Members of
not in support. Okay?
All right. Okay. All right. Some members of the opposition. Right. The question is, do you think, and I know your answer already, so I don't even know why it's a question. It should be like a statement and you're going to say yes. Was Sir Eric Matthew Gairy a good leader?
Let me answer this promptly. He was not just a good leader, he was a great leader, but he was a human being. I could not sit here today and tell you he was perfect, just like you and I. We all have sinned. And sometimes we have to ask the Maker to pardon them for whatever sins they may have committed. Bishop did some good things. Sir Eric Gairy did many good things. Let's go back and look at some of the things Sir Eric Gairy did. Number 1, he ended racial discrimination in Grenada, where we had a class system. If you came from a certain class, certain jobs is not available to you. Number 2, the land for the landless. Let's look at that hallmark program, Land for the Landless. In 1951, when Gairy came, a few light-skinned people owned Grenada. People were living in shacks on Massa estates. It was then he recognized that Grenada belongs to Grenadians. And let me hasten to say that most of this Massa people that own the estates never had no title for the estates because of the color of the skin and the association with the British monarchy and the British representative on the island. They just sent out slaves and with some card and demarcate areas and say, that's my estate. Grenada today have the most landowners in the Caribbean, thanks to Eric Gairy. And I want to repeat, Grenada today have the most landowners in the Caribbean per capita, thanks to Eric Gairy. He did not enslave them. He did not exploit them. He empowered them. He created a Grenadian dream. And the Grenadian dream is that every single Grenadian, no matter how poor you are, you're entitled to a piece of the land where you were born. And he gave it to them. You talk about education, and a lot of people misrepresent his position on education. The GRP built more schools in Grenada than any other party, any other political organization in Grenada. He built schools in Grenada. He had at one point stop assistant students that was going to UE because he recognized that was a playground for protests against him. So he retaliated instead, and what he did was he channeled the resources in primary schools where there were poor people going to primary schools who could not afford a secondary education. And when you look at the education system under Sir Eric Gairy, the primary school then is equivalent to what you have today as secondary schools. There's a lot of secondary school children leaving school today that can't read. Under Sir Eric Gairy, primary school children used to teach. They would leave 7th standard and go straight and take up a teaching job. Okay? Our GDP, agriculture then contributed 65% to the GDP. You know what what's the most contributing factor today to the GDP? Selling passports. Our national identity. That is our main source of foreign exchange. You look at SGU. Take a look at SGU and let's talk about education. Sir Eric Gairy didn't talk about sending them to Cuba. Sir Eric Gairy introduced and assisted St. George's School of Medicine to come here in Grenada. And what was part of the plans? To build a teaching hospital so that when students graduate from SGU, they do not have to go abroad and do their internship. Of course, the government collapsed. The government was overthrown, and all of that was swept away. SGU sold for billions. SGU today is the main foreign exchange contributor to the government and people of Grenada, thanks to Eric Gairy. Eric Gairy gave us hope. He gave us identity. He told us who we are. As I said, God forbid he was never a perfect man, but I have never seen a leader grace us with his presence as the late great Sir Eric Gairy.
Interesting stuff. Guys, this is history that you're hearing. And you may not agree with some of the stuff that Micheal is saying. And a lot of the stuff that he's saying, I know as it relates to SGU, we know for a fact that is the truth, where he introduced the prior at the time the founder of SGU, the land. They went up there, they looked at it, and then he was very instrumental in making that happen. And SGU right now account for 50-something, I believe, percent of the GDP of Grenada. It's in fact true. So let's open up the phone lines, guys. 718.
Let me just make a small point. Today, SAS had sports. You know where he had the sports? Progress Park. Okay? They did not go to Victoria Park because Victoria Park is a swamp. When he took these lands in Paradise, and he opened up and he established Victoria Park. You know the amount of cutters he got for that for taking his lands today? Paradise International as a result of Eric Gairy vision. And sometimes he said, they laugh and they said he would bring the banana boat up in Paradise. And you know, I said to them, so many things this great man has said. And you laughed at. You talk about the UFO. Today, the United States government, the US government today has compiled data validating what Eric Gairy said in Mexico in 1979 when he left Grenada. The United States Senate is now demanding that the executive, the president of the United States, release some of the information that they have on UFO. So this was a man that was ahead of his time. And as I said, you know, and I will keep repeating, my hero was a great man. My hero was a superb human being, but my hero, Sir Eric Matthew Gairy, was not perfect. He was like all of us. He made mistakes. He had his flaws. And whatever wrongs that he may have done, I think it is we should ask God to forgive him for whatever wrongs that he may have done. And when we are looking at a hero, we do not look on the flaws. We look on the heroes, their contribution to our history that favors our development today.
All right, I was just corrected here. Hold on, correction here. Leon Bullen is making a point of correction here, saying that it accounts for 25%, not 60%. I stand corrected on saying 55%. It's quite possibly, yeah, around that 25% mark.
What do we talk about? The agriculture?
No, the SGU.
No, I did not say.
No, I said. It was my error. It was
no.
my error.
Look at SGU today. Through the great late Sir Eric Matthew Gairy, a whole city is built down there. People have become millionaires, building apartment buildings, renting in US dollars. Junior, you know, someone living in rural Grenada can't go and live in True Blue. That's set aside for foreigners. Thanks to the late Eric Gairy. Look at it, the airport. And yes, the airport. That they call Morris Bishop Airport today. So Eric Gairy bought the lands from McIntyre Brothers, and a small plane from Canada landed there, and he proclaimed this is going to be the international airport. Of course, we must give Bishop credit because he saw the plans and we went along with it. Under Sir Eric Gairy's reign, we had agro-processing. We had a soap factory. We had 4 soft drink companies in Grenada: Red Spot, Sky High, Solo, High Low. We had the lime factory. We were moving. And you know what? Sir Eric Gairy did not have even as much time as Morris Bishop as Prime Minister. And that is some of the misconceptions that they have about my leader. He only had Grenada from February 7th, 1974 up to March 12th, 1979. So Bishop was Prime Minister for a greater period than Eric Gairy. And look at all the things that he did. Look at the plans that he laid out for Grenada.
Right.
And I challenge any one of them today to match up to the great works of this great man. You don't have to like him, and you don't have to like what I'm saying. It is history. It is occurrences that can be that's before our eyes. Before 1974, we could not go to China and ask for $1 billion loan. We could not get foreign loan. Grenada had no. When Sir Eric Gairy demit off, when he was overthrown in 79, Grenada had no foreign debt. Whatever development that took place was what with local resources. We had housing scheme. We did not invite the Venezuelans to do housing. We did not invite the Chinese. We built houses in River Road and Telescope that is conducive to Grenadian custom and style. That's what he did. He was a nationalist.
Right. I want to clarify one thing there and fact check some information that you said there about the first plane landed. It said that the first plane landed in Grenada on June 23rd, 1933.
A small plane on that site.
Right, located at a landing spot in Queen's Park, Savannah, well, Queen's Park area. In the
No.
capital,
They're
Georgia.
talking Queen's Park. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
the
where the
small
airport is now. A small plane landed there.
300 placemaker named Columbus, piloted by Arthur Scholz, and the historical event marked the beginning of aviation in Grenada.
Well, you know, that person who brought up that part of history, I say, hooray to them. But we are talking about two different things. I'm talking about when the lands was purchased. And
Now,
a
I
Canadian,
just fact check that. Nobody didn't brought that up. I just fact checked that. And
no. A Canadian company that prepared the plans and did the survey, landed a plane at that site there.
right.
That is when we had the salt pond there. That is where the Canadian small plane landed there before the overthrow. When Bishop came in, Bishop did not have to reinvent the wheel. We must give him some credit. And we must give Bishop some credit. He dissolved the Provident Fund and he made it more extensive. He changed the name from Provident Fund and he called it NIS. That's not his baby. That is Uncle Gairy baby. Okay? He did that. The NMIB, he again amended that and changed the name. Uncle Gairy started that marketing board. Bishop added importing to it. He did some amendments. But all of these things that was there was started under Eric Gairy. So and when you look at the unity we had in Grenada, we jump up, we fuss with each other in election time, and after election we got back together as one people. It was from since 1976 when Bishop and his team came in fresh out of universities and they introduced that foreign ideology to us and we started hating each other. That's when the thing started. So today, as we approach our independence, and we see the same division that Bishop orchestrated, the same division that Maurice Bishop orchestrated, it's raising its ugly head today. You hear some people saying that this party don't want to cooperate with independence, and this one boycotting and whatnot. There's nothing new. Bishop started that. Maurice Bishop started that division when he did all that he can to derail Grenada independence. And those are factual. The record is there for itself. The night of independence, Maurice Bishop slept in detention. He was placed in detention for safekeeping because they felt that they did not want to embarrass the dignitaries coming into Grenada at the time. So in an effort to have peace on that night, that's what happened. Now, if we're talking about the Mongoose Gang, and you didn't raise it yet, but I want to raise it. I'm preempting you, the Mongoose Gang.
Yes.
Now, the Mongoose Gang was part of the Ministry of Health. It was part of vector control. There was a time when Mongoose was taking over Grenada. And so Eric Gairy saw these idle boys in town and felt that he could give them something to do. So what he did, they were making the traps in River Road. So he said, look, you go out and catch mongoose, and everyone that you catch, when you come back, you get a bonus. And he gave them the trap, and all they had to do was to bring back the tail.
Yeah. Stick it, because I think we have a clip that I want to play back, because we have Tan, and Tan was a member of that Mongoose Gang. He gave his recollection.
Right.
And it was only about 25 or 30 people was working in that thing. It wasn't a gang to say we had a Mongoose gang, but as I tell you, they committed 22. Then they had some some demonstration in town, and the Ministry of Health was right where you see a nice old building there, and they went up there, I feel name Sabuna from St. David's, and they threw computer, typewriter, there was a typewriter in that time. They showed out the window, and that is how it began. So this name Gairy, mongoose end up with Gairy. No, it was about 8 or 10 of us. We should line together. You know how men line together, we go party and so on. And if we go to a party and something happened to you, it's obviously I always involved. So now something big, they say Gairy to go send people and beat people. Gairy, know a lot of things happen. Gairy know nothing about it. Gairy know nothing about it. And you know, they end up calling us the mongoose young. Because where you go, the mongoose young, the mongoose young. But a lot of people have the wrong conception about the mongoose young. Because it sounds like all over the island here, you had this gang calling mongoose young, but it was not so. Anyhow, the name ended up staying with us. Before Bishop and them do the takeover, they had some confliction with some of the guys, like the Pram, the Willie, and so on. They had confusion with them. They say they beat them in Grenville, and Radix and them, they say they beat them in Grenville, right? And from that time, it going on, because I could remember Ralph Thompson that time. Well, it was two factions, I should say. NJM was something different to Bishop. NJM was Teddy Victor and them, and they used to make a little newspaper, and they used to pass in the house and scheme where we was living, and put the newspaper there for us, and they meet us in town and say, boy, you have to give us $1. So we used to go down good, and that's why you see they stick Gairy this and Gairy that and Gairy the other. Up come the revolution now. The morning I get up about 5:05, and I hear in this thing, the Gairy regime has been overthrown or something. So I leave by my house, and I go by Head's house. But he died. I go by Head's house. I say, what's going on? We know what's going on. So we be talking and so on. So Heads had a woman, a girlfriend in Guav. So we decided, she had some friends, we decided we're going up there to look. He wanted to go up there. So we really went up there. So in going, the radio playing, and they said, the mongoose young on the western side, deal with them. So we went as far as Guav, and when we reached in Guav, we go by the station, and somebody contact Mr. Prudhomme. And Mr. Prudhomme was, all you come back down home and take it easy. Take that, what Mr. Prudhomme said to us, right? So we came back down, I went home, I cooked something to eat and so on, and I went by the road and sit down, because I didn't know what's going on. Then, about 10 minutes after that, I hear a loud noise coming from the back of where the postal is there, and they come out all by way Steel High Garage, and the fellas, young fellas with they was 303. And they're moving up and down and they're thinking and so on. So when they reached by where I was sitting, me and a guy used to call Man, they pass and they go and they reach as far under the rocks. And if you have an idea where under the rocks is, they reach there. And I see a lot of road reversing back. And when I look at it, I see Crawford Best, one of my very good friends. We used to play cards together, we used to eat together. He come back, he said, Ton, I want to leave you here, because them young boys are 3 in the hand, I know what they go do, and so on and so on and so on. So let's go with me. So that I jump in the rover. Other partner nearby me, the man. He said, well, I ain't staying here alone, all of us friends live in the same area, are going too. So we jump in the rover. The next thing I know, they bring me the radio going. When I reach in the radio going, I see all different kind of people. And then when I see Victor was bad, I used to call him Daddy. I said, Daddy, he said, boy, you didn't understand what's going on. And then when they keep us there till about 5 o'clock. And then they bring some truck and they say, put us on different things. But I live in, up at the time I live in Tempe. No, I live in Road. So I say, look, I glad I say I going home. So they come up, they go up the lane. When I believe going down Tempe, I see the hit for up Richmond Hill. But I still didn't know what was going on. Until they swing. And when they swing and they reach by Mr. Friday place, and I see the head soap, I say, Lord, they bring me in jail. Well, he brought us in the jail. Rampel was the main man when he reached there. Open the gate, them prisoners open the gate, and they put us inside. Bogo. All the Monka people are me down there, different people.
All right, guys, I promise you that I will share the entire conversation with Tan back on the page so you could go through and watch it from beginning to end. But to your point about the Mongoose gang, Tan and a few other members that was a part of the Mongoose gang said, yes, in fact, it started where Gairy had this group of guys that was going and catch and hold mongoose because it was an infestation of these mongoose. But it changed because they didn't only stay with that; they actually became sort of a security force for Sir Matthew Gairy. Wasn't that fact? Isn't that factual?
Well, of course, as I said before, Sir Gairy was a great man. Sir Gairy was not a perfect man. And when you're dealing with a situation like we had in the 60s, with guys that was military trained, intellectuals out of fresh from universities and hell-bent on taking over a country at all costs, there was excesses. And I condemn these excesses. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything was well. There was excesses. There's excesses today. Overzealous supporters. I mean, I don't want to go into some of the things I see some supporters doing today. Closing down business places at gunpoint today. Overzealous supporters in the guise of Ministry of Health. There's overzealous people who outdo their positions unnecessarily. And this guy's probably was part of that. No doubt about that. I saw instances where people were beat up because they was expressing their civil duty, their civic responsibility as opposing a government.
Right.
And I said, no, we all should be able to disagree with one another without being hurt in any kind of way. When that was done, that was wrong. If it is done today, it is wrong. And we must pray, God, that as a nation, for the way forward, we must never again turn on each other the way we did in those turbulent times. That was wrong. Whether it was done under Uncle Gairy, whether it was done under PRG, whether it was arresting people arbitrarily and putting them on Richmond Hill and the same, put them on the heavy manners, all that was wrong.
Right.
And Bishop did not do any justice by trying to outdo the wrongs that he proclaimed Sir Eric Gairy was doing. Two wrongs don't make a right. So they both did wrong to the citizens, both the GLP and the PRG. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because Bishop was not a saint either. Uncle Gairy was not a saint. Bishop was not a saint. But
right.
they have a lot of good things that we could be proud of. And we must take the good things that Bishop did. We must take the good thing that Uncle Gairy did and let's work with it. And let's not compare the two men. Because never again in our never again in our history would we see two strong men like Sir Eric Gairy and Morris Bishop. They were different in their own ways, but they both meant well for Grenada to a point.
Right. Right.
Bishop recognized Uncle Gairy's revolution in 1951. He recognized the injustice has been done to the workers. And unfortunately, he did not choose the method of governance that would cause the masses to say today that you came as a savior.
Right. I want to really fast track because we're way above time. We may have to do a part 2, Michael. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
But today we're celebrating 50-year anniversary. We're talking about up and up. We're talking about moving forward. We're talking about all these really nice things. Do you think that Sir Eric Matthew Gairy is given his just due or his respect, his full respect for the work that he put in to kind of orchestrate this independence that we're celebrating here?
No. And it's rather unfortunate. No. Now, you cannot talk independence without talking about Eric Gairy. You see, Grenada independence was unusual. It was about the efforts of a man fighting against all the odds to ensure that we break the shackles of colonialism.
Right.
So anytime you're going to celebrate independence, Eric Gary's name must be mentioned. Because as I said earlier, Grenada is the only country in the Caribbean, in the world, when we was about to be free, we started fighting each other because we wanted to remain under colonialism. And our independence started not in 74. Our independence started way back in 1951, almost 73, 74 years ago. Our march to independence started when we recognized that being a colony, we had no benefits. We could not export our own stuff. The colonial masters were here. They were raping us and sending all our produce to England and getting nothing in return. Our workers were not getting anything. We could not strike. We could not have a diplomatic relation with anybody. We could not borrow. We could not have ambassadors. We could not have a Kirani James. We could not have a Deacon Micheal. We could not have a Kit Micheal or Morris Bishop had we not gotten independence. So independence was a good thing for everybody.
Right.
But today, I must say, we must unite as a people. We cannot go on the way we are going right now. We have a new government in place, and they talk transformation, and they must set standards, not substandards. You cannot go back to what it was and in the tit for tat. You must say that was wrong, and this is the standard from where we shall work now. We have the 50th anniversary. It is a historical occasion. It would have been nice to see the Prime Minister and the opposition leader finding common grounds where we could unite on that day. It would have been nice if we saw the government inviting the opposition to name persons on the celebration committee so that we could unite and celebrate as a nation.
Are we talking? Someone said, "Are we talking about?" Nah, never mind. I'm not gonna bring that up. That's gonna bring up a lot of controversy. I'm not gonna touch
Listen to me. I am saying to you, the people spoke on June 2022.
Yeah.
They elected a new government. You are talking transformation. Transformation must begin with how we behave with each other.
Right.
It cannot be tit for tat. Because you say NNP did not do it, Kit Mitchell didn't do it. But what's stopping you from doing it? Let us embrace each other. Let us unite as a people. Because hear me, we have important work to do, you know. We have a constitution that we need bi-party support on that. NDC alone cannot amend the constitution. So we need to cooperate there. With technology today, there are some aspect of the constitution that's outdated that we need togetherness on.
In fact, when you said about we fighting against each other, it reminded me of the referendum that we had, and for a common cause, when things could have been changed, like the CCJ and the Privy Council, we did not support that, and that would have been landmark. I think that would have been important. But because we could not amass that 2/3 majority, that could not have been changed, and that did not change, and the referendum failed.
No party can attain a 2/3 majority today, except there's cooperation with the political parties.
Yes,
no party can do so. The only one party ever obtained a 2/3 majority, that was the late great Eric Gairy with the GLP. It wouldn't happen today because we are a divided people. But we must stop the division. How we look at regional cooperation, how we look at our place in the world, how we look at agriculture. And something we're not touching, work ethics.
Yeah.
We have a problem there. One party cannot talk about work ethics to make it appear as if it's a political thing for one party. Both leader and the Prime Minister must address the question of the delinquency in the workplace. We must address the poor work ethics we have in Grenada. We cannot be a productive nation with the workforce that we have now. But that is an issue that calls for togetherness. Let's talk about it together. Look at the state of our agriculture. Look at how crime is on the increase. Look at the high unemployment. Look at hopelessness. Hopelessness is not a one party thing. Together we must say, let us curb the crime. Our young people today are frustrated. Everybody today wants a gun.
Right.
So we have to unite. When we unite, we can do a lot of things. And the time has come today when the government must take the initiative to stretch out an olive branch and not this pushing your shoulder in the air and say, I'm in charge and you was in charge and you did this and you did that. They must say, look, listen, Grenada belongs to all of us. Let the second half of the century be a lot better than the first half, because the first half was divisive and turmoil.
I hope in the second half, we don't see leaders calling each other out of their names in sort of ways to cause more chaos within the population. And also, I heard statements to the effect of ISIS in Grenada, which I heard that was debunked as well. Hope in the second half we don't have that type of articulation by leadership, and leaders pay more keen attention to the development of the people and the country. And on both sides of the political divide, we have leaders who are trying to bring that closer in and not separate it further. Hope in the second half we are better as a people.
Well, we must first recognize when we erred, and we must do what we can to correct it. The question of the ISIS is a cause for concern for everybody. It should be a national concern. You know, we know what ISIS means. It is not you, a natural born Grenadian, or Micheal Baptiste, that go into the registrar and select that name ISIS. We should not accept that from a foreigner, because we do not know the background and the connections of the foreigner. Simple. And we should say to that person, choose another name. We don't like it. Okay? Choose another name. Don't use this word ISIS in Grenada. Because when you look at the Terrorism Act, it spells out a lot of icons for names of terror organizations that's banned around the world.
The Islamic State, that was as far as we understood from the document that was filed. And I don't want to get into that because that's not the conversation today.
Right.
We went extensively into that. The document is the name of an individual.
Tell them we don't want that name. They didn't born here.
Yeah, no.
They're not from St. Andrew, they're not from Tongue, you know. Tell them we don't want that here. Tell them that name is too contentious. Take it out.
But
use another name.
ISIS and the Islamic State, if someone...
we don't want that, because we depend on tourism.
Right.
And perception is reality sometimes. Tell that foreigner.
Right.
Junior, we're not talking about somebody like you and I, Grenadian, that come and we want to use a name. We're talking about a foreigner. Why are we defending a foreigner? Tell the foreigner no. Tell the foreigner, don't use that name in Grenada.
Here's the bigger problem that I'm having. And again, this is not a conversation to debate that. I think that the bigger problem I see than to telling someone they cannot use their name on a document, the bigger problem is if that is identified by an individual and they don't have clarification as that being the Islamic State, which is in fact the terrorist organization, and you coming out as someone who should know better and making that pronouncement, I think that is a big problem.
Well, again, I have tried to register several companies, and some of the names that I put forward, it was not contentious name. It was not names that associate with the terrorists, and they would say, well, because of the similarity with existing names, the suggestion is that you use something else.
Right.
And simple. That should not be up for national debate where we arguing ourselves with a foreigner. The person don't born here, they don't belong, we don't know where they come out. We don't know who the links are. Tell them take that off the register. Use another name, ABC, use their own personal name and do that. And what are they doing? A massage parlor? Come on now. Why we going to war? Why we can't unite on something and say, listen?
You don't have a problem by a former minister of national security, making the utterance that turned out to be not that of the Islamic State, that don't seem to have resonated with you as an issue to put something out there to the general public and the world when it doesn't represent the Islamic State, which is in fact a terrorist organization.
We don't know.
That's
it's a foreigner.
Yeah, but no. I know that it's a foreigner.
Yes.
And I even apologize that we have to debate this issue because that.
Let us skip that one because
let's go to that.
We disagree on that. It's a foreigner.
Right.
It's not a Grenadian. So why we allowing a Grenadian to even taint us into a perception with an ISIS name? Tell that foreigner we don't want that. Tell them come with their own name. Change the name. Change the letters. Okay. And if they want to stay here and do business here.
All right. But listen, great conversation, Micheal. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, man, from Munich. You know, we're from the same area over there.
Of course.
Thank you, my brother. We'll keep in touch, all right?
Same, one love, man.
We might have a part 2 of this when we will get deeper into this.
Anytime you're ready. Yes, man.
All right. Thank you, my brother.
Good.
Stay safe. All right. And happy 50.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Mr. Micheal Baptiste. Let's take a quick commercial break, guys. We overdue for a commercial break, and I have my closing words when we come right back. Don't move.
For an exhilarating adventure? Then look no further than Ride Excursions and Tours. Get ready to explore the great outdoors like never before with our powerful e-bikes. Discover breathtaking sightseeing tours around the island. Feel the wind in your hair and experience nature in its purest form. Now, whether you're a seasoned rider or a beginner, our e-bikes are perfect for everyone. Call us at 473-422-1011 to book your excursion or visit ridersebikes.com. That's ridersebike.com to reserve your spot. Unleash your adventurous spirit with Ride Excursions and Tours, where every journey becomes an unforgettable adventure.
Yeah, guys, so we're telling you all about the Riders e-bike. Ah, man, let me tell you, this is the new innovation. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's riding. Have you ridden it as yet? Have you rented? Have you checked out our excursion on a Sunday as yet? Well, if you haven't, I have an opportunity for you guys right now. We have 2 bikes left for this week's excursion. We're going to be in St. Andrew, starting at Pearls Airport today. This week, we have what is called the Bike and Tube. Bike and Tube. So we're starting at Pearls Airport. We're riding up Paradise area. Then we're going up Lafayette, Tivoli. Not Tivoli, sorry. Going up Lafayette, right? Mount Han, this area is there. Heading up and we're busting out in our back road there off that trail by Mellows in the back there. We're heading down to Baltazar. And when you get down to Baltazar, we jump in on a tube and we tubing down Baltazar River. It's real fun. We provide breakfast, lunch, and everything in between. Refreshments. It's an amazing opportunity, guys, to ride. Yeah, ride. Take a family or take a friend out. In fact, if you're not gonna be in Grenada, you could even loan or gift a ride to a family or a friend. Call 473. Write this number down, guys. Save it and write it down. 473-422-1011. That's 473-422-1011. And we tell you about the Ride e-bike excursions and tours. Ride e-bike excursions and tours. And don't forget, guys, this Sunday, we're riding in St. Andrew, and we have 2 bikes left. 2 bikes left. So if you're in Grenada right now, we got 2 bikes left. Or call a friend right now and say, listen, you want to ride this Sunday? You want to ride this Sunday in St. Andrew with us? This is the actual bike. We're riding. Call them up right now and gift a ride. In fact, guys, if you inbox me right now, if you inbox and you have 2 person that gonna go on the ride with us, I'll be there this Sunday. I give you a 10% discount right now. But you have to call within the next 10 minutes, all right? You have to call within the next 10 minutes. We have to fill up that 2 bikes that's remaining. And the number that you call right now, if you call right now, 718-701-5720, I'll give you a 10% discount on the last final 2 bikes that we have remaining for this week. All right? The number you call is 718-701-5720, guys. If you call right now, right now. Just register your number on my phone and I give you 10%, instant 10% discount on our ride on Sunday. All right? 10%, call 718-701-5720. Get a family. If you in New York, if you in Canada, you in England, but you have a family in Grenada, say, listen, you want to ride? Okay, don't worry, I got you. I'll send you on a ride this Sunday. It's an excursion like no other. Everyone having fun. Everybody talking about it, about our e-bike. Call, register your number in my phone. I'll call you back, give you an instant 10% discount. This Sunday, we inside Pearl St. Andrews. Come ride with us.
It's Instacash Grenada. Imagine a game with no numbers to choose from, no draws to wait on, and you can play it every day, including Sunday. That's Instacash. It's fast, it's easy to play, and you win prizes instantly. Instacash. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA. Making dreams come true.
Development Authority of Grenada, PDA, is enforcing regulations to curb illegal, disorderly, and unauthorized development in several locations throughout the state of Grenada. The authority is concerned that structures mainly associated with vending are negatively impacting the environment, has undesirable public health and sanitation consequences, present obstructions to vehicle and pedestrian traffic, can become projectiles during adverse weather conditions, and generally affect the aesthetics of the nation. The PDA will work along with stakeholder ministries and institutions to effect the demolition, removal, and disposal of structures which fall in the category of illegal and disorderly development, commencing January 2024. In this regard, persons who vend in or occupy such illegal structures are advised to secure their personal belongings and have the structures removed ahead of the planned PDA demolition operations. These actions of the PDA have become necessary to safeguard and protect public health and the environment, ensure the safety and well-being of all citizens and visitors, discourage any future disorderly construction, and encourage compliance to regulations pertaining to physical development in the state of Grenada. This is a message from the Planning and Development Authority of Grenada.
Ministry of Tourism and Economic Development and the Grenada Tourism Authority extend a warm welcome to visitors and returning nationals visiting for Carnival and summer vacation. We do hope you enjoy your stay with us, and we invite you to return with friends and family to celebrate our 50th anniversary of independence on 7th February 2024. Tourism is my business, your business, our business.
I told you earlier, guys, about the ride e-bike excursions and tours, but it gets even better. If you want to rent an e-bike, guys, to do your own excursion, your own ride, it's only $99 per day, 99 EC per day. So if you're in Grenada, you're returning to Grenada, but you know traffic backed up, dread. Traffic is hectic. What you could do, you could rent an e-bike from inside the kiosk at the Esplanade Mall, come in, pick up your e-bike, and you have it for the day, hold it for 2 days, a maximum of 5 days rental. Get your e-bike rental, only $99 per day. In fact, it's $30 an hour. If you want to rent it for an hour, you just want to make a quick run and come back, go into the mall tomorrow or anytime and get your e-bike, $99 a day or $30, 30 EC an hour. Run your little errands, come and drop it back and you're good to go. Safe. It's all about ride e-bike rentals and tours. And of course, I'm telling you, I'm still offering the 10% discount if you call in within the next 10 minutes. I'm giving you 10% discount on our next ride, which is going to be in St. Andrew. We're riding from Pearls Airport and we're coming up to Baltazar, right? And food and drinks and real vibe. This Sunday, we're in St. Andrew with ride, excursions and tours. Guys, let me also tell you about JetBlue. Yeah, ride JetBlue, same thing, right? Listen, JetBlue is affording me the opportunity to fly in and out of Grenada within a day, and I could fly back the next day real quick with 2 direct flights from JFK to Maurice Bishop International Airport. Yeah, Fly with JetBlue. Book right now at jetblue.com. In fact, if you're not in Grenada for independence, you're missing out. There are so many things that's happening, and you can't afford to miss the magnificent, grand, and big parade in Grenada. Fly with JetBlue. And when you fly with JetBlue, guys, make sure you ride with JetBlue, and then you come into the Esplanade Mall and you get a ride. You know, ride. It's all about one ride. One ride. Yes, it's a nice ride. Guys, listen, a lot of you can't ride. You can't ride, you just fall, you're shaky, you need to buck up on your skills. You listen, we are offering free test rides, right? Free test rides. And not only that, we are offering classes, right? So if you want to learn how to ride, we'll teach you how to ride. Okay? So listening, follow us on Facebook at Ride Excursions and Tours and sign up for our free tutorial on how to ride. You gotta learn the damn thing. You gotta learn it. You gotta learn how to ride. Guys, Geneva's Cottage. Geneva's Cottage is located right there in the Woodlands area. If you ain't have a place to stay in Grenada yet, because you know everybody going down for independence, check out Geneva's Cottage. Check Airbnb right now. Type in Geneva Cottage. Yeah, check them out, man. It's the best view in town. And of course, it's close to everything. Supermarket, airport, right there. Check out Geneva's Cottage right now on Airbnb. Book now. Guys, if you have a business and you want to advertise with us right here on Ride Along Live. Advertise and reach more.
Us and reach millions daily, weekly, monthly. Yeah, over 10 million per month. It pays to advertise with us. Reach more and let us send your business viral. Advertise with us and reach more.
Guys, final closing words. What I'm saying, guys, listen, we're not trying to rewrite history, as what someone said earlier. We are trying to understand history from all perspectives, right? But we all understand that the historical recollection that was probably cited by Micheal Baptiste today may not be one that you subscribe to or believe, right? I'm perfectly clear and understand that. We continue to encourage everyone to, do your research, the research and find out the teaching from different perspectives, because anywhere you turn, there will be people that might skew history based on their bias, because everybody has some kind of bias. You might find that, right? But you have to kind of look at it from all sides. So if you really want to get the true historical recollection, listening to one side may not be all or the everything that you need to find out about the historical recollection. You need to get the both sides. So encourage you to do your research. But Grenada history is strong, very powerful. There's a lot that we need to learn, because every time I have someone on the program where we talk about the revolution or the independence or everything about Grenada, I learn something new every single time. Every time. And we do this type of program as to start conversation in your mind and curiosity, so you could start looking up things, right? Because some of the younger ones that was born even after the revolution or way after independence, of course, they of course, you was not present, or even if you were, you were probably very young. So you have to get third party. You have to hear from people and their recollection, and that's what we aim to do here on Ride Along Live, right? I hope you appreciate that. Because if you look around, there ain't much platforms doing what we are attempting to do here, and we do it consistently over and over again. So thank you so much, because you are the guiding light. You are the people who ensure that you stay, you watch, you share, you continue to share, and we are always excited to bring this type of programming to you. So thank you, all right? So do your research, guys. Don't get upset because someone is not saying something that you like to hear, because nobody would always say something that you like to hear, right? People may kind of mess up your curiosity a bit, or might say something that might kind of jog your mind, or might say something that you don't like, or might say something about somebody that you support, but they don't support. But that doesn't mean that you should hate the person. Yeah, I mean, everybody have their bias, and people sometimes, you know, they show their bias. But listen, understand that. Understand that. Thank you so much. Do your own research. Exactly, precisely right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to be in Grenada for the magnificent, amazing, grand independence celebration. And we encourage every Grenadian, every single Grenadian, to participate in the events. Tomorrow, it's Up From Here concert. Wow, it's going to be a big one. And of course, there are so much other things happening. We have over the weekend. And next week is a big celebration. I hear they have drones, 500 drones display. Yo, just come with, make sure your phone charged, because the fireworks is the mother of all fireworks. The drone show is the father, the grandmother then. The grandfather of all events. It's going to be magnificent. It's going to be amazing. So make sure you come in. Make sure you come in early. Bring your friend, bring everybody, and be a part of the 50th anniversary celebration. And we still have stuff, you know. We still have, listen, guys. We have bumper stickers. These are the bumper stickers, right? So if you want bumper stickers, we're selling that for $10. Okay? $10. Bumper stickers. We have these. We have license plates. Covers. See? License plate covers. You could get that as well. Get this one. License plate covers. We have a series of different things, guys. Oh, let me show you my favorite of all. So we got this specially crafted and handmade, right? This was specially crafted and handmade. And you know, if you realize, I'm a beads kind of guy, right? So I had this specially made because I know the writers would love it. And that's in celebration of our 50th anniversary. We have quite a few. So if you want to cop some of these, you guys inbox me. I'll take your information and I'll ship it out to you. All right? Just inbox me, tell me which one you want. We have this wrong ones, which is really nice. See it? I started a song like Home Shopping Network, right? Buy this one because it goes with your nails, right? So these are really nice, guys. If you want it, you hit me up. I'll take your information and I'll just put it in the mail. I'll express it to you. You'll get it as soon as possible. Just wear this because I'm a bead kind of guy. See, I'm always wearing my beads. Okay, so this is really nice. Check this out. Inbox me if you want to get some of these. And more license plate, more license plate. We got a bunch of these. Bumper stickers. Let people see that you're Grenadian. If you see anything here that you like, inbox me and I'll ship it out to you. All right. There you go. Bumper stickers. Let people see that you're Grenadian. If you're in Grenada, after Saturday, you could pick this up. But if you outside of Grenada, the US and Canada, you could inbox me and I'll send it off to you. But I really like this, though. I really like these. These was handcrafted, handmade by a young person, you know. The person is not even 15. And I gave them some good business. I said, give me about 24 of these. And they made it, and I love it. Anytime they make more, I'm buying it. I'm buying all. I'm buying everything that they have because it's supporting them, and they're doing great work. See? And when you support them, see, support local, you support a young person, entrepreneur. This is magnificent. If you want these, guys, inbox me, and I'll get it sent off to you, all right? All right, nothing for the ankle. I'll get something for the ankle, man. The person can make some ankle thing. Yeah, they can make some ankle thing. Yeah? All right, guys, so inbox me. The price, let me see. You know what I'll do? I'll sell these because it's support. I'll sell these for $20. How about that, right? I'll sell these for $20 because it's support. And don't say the price expensive. Don't say it's expensive. It's support, right? I'll sell this for $20, right? I'll sell this for $20. Inbox me, guys. I'll send it off for you. $20 and you got it. I don't want nobody to say, oh, the price expensive, it's dear. Cheap thing though good. And good thing though cheap. It's all about support. US. And we take credit card. Call me up. I take your credit card payment. I'll drop this in the mail for you tomorrow. I promise you get it before independence. Especially if you're in the US, I could send this off to you tomorrow, real quick. All right. Let's see. I'm going to take mine off because I have a feeling. No, not 20 EC. This is going right now for 20 US. This is handmade. And I want to give the guy a bly. Real good bly. This is handmade stuff. Right? Handmade stuff. Really nice. You ain't gonna get that anywhere else, guys. Trust me. People go try to do it like that, but they ain't gonna do it like that. Especially these. The bumper sticker price, $10. 10 US dollars. 10. Nobody don't say the price expensive. It is, you know how you go. Boom. You ain't gonna get it nowhere else. See it? I feel like Home Shopping Network, ladies and gentlemen. Home Shopping Network. Yeah. Anyway, you guys know how we go. Inbox me, and I'll sort it out for you. Oh, we also got other stuff, you know. If you want to go on the excursion, this Sunday, that's the link for the excursion. If you just want to do the tube, the river tubing, if you just want to do the river tubing, let me put the link for just the river tube. That is right here. That's just for the river tubing. And of course, we have all the brilliant colors in terms of the shirts, in terms of the bag. Oh, guys, let me show you this. I have the bag. I have this bag. I have 2 left locally. I have 2 left. I have 2 more left of these bags. So if you go online right now and you make a purchase, I could ship it out for you tomorrow. Because these bags are limited. Oh, we have some hats as well. We have some hats. So if you want the hats, you could also click buy the hats as well. Everything Grenadian. Everything Grenadian. Celebrating 50. 50 is a big deal. 50 is a big deal. All right. Peace out. Good night on behalf of all of our production team here at Ride Along Live, our senior executive producer, Lois JJ. Thank you so much. Catch you guys again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Good night.